Welcome back to the channel, folks, and to another battle report. I'm going to be playing another list from Balls German. I'm going to be using the Brigade Panther Grenadier list. That's the one where you have the option of bringing all those new fancy Flak half-tracks. I like this list because of what you can have in it. The half-tracks, the Flak half-tracks themselves, yeah, they're okay, but there's other elements to the list that I really quite like. Obviously, it's not a very high quality list, but we'll see that when we come to the breakdown of what's in it. And also, I've got a couple of King Tigers in there, so you get to see them in the game again. And I'm going to be playing against Laurence. He's going to be using Soviets, so we'll get to see them up against the Balls German releases. Now, it's a remote game. Laurence is at the other side of the country, so to speak, in Scotland here, and we've recorded it over a couple of sessions, so it's just going to be me doing a turn summary at the end of each turn. You're not going to see the dice rolling and such like, because that's going to be a bit too tricky to manage over two different locations. It is possible, with better understanding of technology and so on. For instance, I've come up with ways to improve the remote user experience, shall we say. I'm sounding very technical. So things are a lot quicker. You get multi-camera angles and instant kind of feedback, which was much better than what we had before, which is multi-cameras, but a minimum 5-second delay when we're using YouTube Live. But I'm waffling. Let's go over, speak to Laurence and kick off the video. Hello Laurence, and welcome back to the channel.
Thank you very much, Frank.
Now, this is like another remote game, folks, and we're doing it slightly differently today. I'm going to sort of, as if I know what I'm doing with the technology, so hopefully we're going to have a quicker game, more easy game to follow for Laurence as we go, but that's just between us. Now, Laurence, I'm playing Germans today. I want to do another Bulge game, and I'm glad to say you're bringing Soviets, so we can see what the Soviets are going to be like against these new Balls Germans. So what's your list like?
Well, my list is like a Hero tank formation. I've always enjoyed the Soviets because they're quite fast and they're really quite attack minded. Well, that's the way I like to play them, and I've been playing quite a bit Germans versus Americans recently from the Bulge, and I quite fancy to see what they were like against Soviets.
Mm-hmm.
Going on the fact that I have chosen Hero this time because I think I could do with a few more blitzes out the way of potential big tank shots coming my way. But I've also gone for quite a bit of artillery. I think the best way to get out these big tanks is to bail them out.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 or 4 templates, including planes. Look, I was a bit nervous about taking planes because I've expected that you'd bring a lot of anti-aircraft fire from the new book, but I thought I'd give it another shot because it then adds another dimension for you to think about where you're going to place these anti-aircraft. So just hope for a manoeuvrable game to try and get some side shots and see how I fare against these great big tanks and see how I get on.
Well, your planes are flying tanks, so they've got a really good save, and you never know. That'll be the thing that'll probably deal with these big guys. And your platoons of tanks are in platoons of 4 as well, so they'll be relatively easy to hide in compared to a larger kind of platoon. So you might be able to move from cover to cover. And folks, I'm going to be using the Brigade Panther Grenadier platoon company, and as you'll see when we see the list, there's quite a few half-tracks in it, a few other nice anti-tank elements as well, and a couple of King Tigers. So it'll be good to see what the Soviets can do to the King Tigers. So we'll go now have a look at the lists in a little bit more detail. Here is my German list for today. It's the Brigade Armoured Panzer Grenadier Company, not to be confused with the Assault Company, who have assault rifles. So you can see it has got 2 platoons of Panzer Grenadiers in half-tracks with a company HQ also in the half-track. These guys are all aggressive, reluctant, trained. Last stand is 4+, so it's not quite so bad in that respect, but they're not the best quality troops. They have got 2 Panzer Fausts for each platoon, and the HQ's also got a single Panzer Faust. Now, part of the formation is 2 platoons of triple 20mm half-tracks. These are probably bullet magnets. Whenever they turn up, people will want to kill them just because they're the cool new thing. What they're actually capable of doing in the game will depend on what they're up against in the way of targets, because they're not going to be taking out tanks. They can be shooting up infantry, potentially shooting down planes, perhaps good against gun teams. Now, I've got 6 here, 2 platoons of 3. You can have 1 platoon of 6 and you save a point. That point could come in useful for other things, but here I've decided to just, partly because of how I'm playing the rest of the formation, I've decided to keep it in 2 platoons. I can be in 2 different places at once. Now, still part of the formation, you've got 2 platoons of 3 Panzer IV 70s. Now, these are not the best quality. Once again, these are the brigade types, so they are aggressive, reluctant, trained. Once again with a 4+ last handle. But they've still got 9 points armour on the front and anti-tank 14. So they can hit hard if you can get them into a good position. So that's a really quite chunky formation. And we've still got 40 points left to spend. So right at the back there you can see 3 Hitzers, and these are flame Hitzers. If you wanted to take a platoon of 6 of the 20mm half-tracks and save a point, you could turn that platoon of 3 Hitzers into 4 Volks Hitzers. Now, these are flame Hitzers are obviously great against infantry and guns, that's why they're in my list. It's either these or Wesps. But if you wanted to just go down the route of more anti-tank, then a 10 point for 4 vehicles with front armour 7, anti-tank 11 is not too bad. But here I'm going for the flamer option. They're once again another bullet magnet. Everything wants to kill the flamers before they get to do their job. Third time I think using them, and they have failed. Oh no, they've actually fired and killed a couple of bases infantry, but you know they've failed to do anything really substantial. But I'm going to use these instead of artillery. It means I don't want to get the smoke bombardment, which could be useful, but I want to give these guys another go. And then almost elephants in the room, in this case it's the King Tigers in the room, 2 SS King Tigers, 31 points for the pair. These guys are aggressive, trained, but the motivation is a 2-up, so they're quite hard to get rid of unless you absolutely kill them. Now 31 points could also get 2 Yad Tigers, who are careful, but they don't have that crazy level of motivation. But being careful compared to aggressive can make a big difference when receiving side shots. And these guys are likely, if the Soviets play the cards right, they're likely to get shots on their side. And side armour 8 against anti-tank 12, let's say, is not so good. So if you just purely want them to kill tanks, a good swap might be 2 Yad Tigers instead of 2 King Tigers. But King Tigers are finished, they're painted, the Yad Tigers are on the painting table, so this is what I've got. So it's quite a chunky formation all round, folks. That's why I've been yapping on so much about it, but hopefully it'll give you some ideas about how to field these Brigade Panzer Grenadiers or assault formations. Here is Laurence's Soviet list for today. So the main formation is a Hero T34 formation. The HQ, you can see him in the middle there with a big red red flag on his turret. Then flanking him, and also 1 platoon back, are 3 platoons each of 276 and 285mm T34s. And then to round off the formation, a platoon of 6 mortars, 6 medium mortars. That in itself is a very useful unit. it re-rolls misses as long as there's at least 5 of them still in the game, and it also helps keep the formation on table because they can keep their heads down whilst the T34s are probably taking a few casualties. So to back them up, they've got 3 Su-85s, though I'm proxying in Su-100s for them. This sometimes happens in these remote games, folks, as my collection doesn't necessarily match exactly what my opponent wants to play. And then behind them, on the right there, is what's meant to be 3 Su-76s. It looks like 1 Su-76 and 2 T-70s, but that's a platoon of 3 Su-76s. And then right at the back, a battery of 4 122mm artillery with a BA-64 observer. So it's got some careful units in the shape of the Su-85s, and they've got anti-tank 12, and then you've got lots of quick, mobile, get around the flank, get around and behind type of tanks in the way of these T34s. 3 platoons altogether, sorry, and there's quite a lot of anti-tank 12 in them too. You've got, for a template weapon, you've got Su-76s. You can also shoot direct fire, but they'll probably be more likely to do that in this game maybe against my half-tracks, but in other games against lighter tanks. Otherwise, an artillery unit with the mortars as another template and the 122s as a template. So there's lots of mobility and also lots of templates down here. So we'll see how these guys go. Hero T34 Formation. If I didn't mention that, the Heroes, by the way, they've got a good average kind of last stand of 4+, not 3+ that the normal ones do, but they have a 3+ tactics role, which means they can do things such as shooting and scooting, blitzing, these kind of things much better than the ordinary T34s who pass those tests on a 5, not a 3. So there you go, Laurence's force for today.
Today's mission is contact. We both went for manoeuvre, rolled off and got this mission here. Now, as you can see, it's quite a simple and straightforward set of deployment zones, but important to note that there are objective deployment zones in both. There is a nominal attacker and defender in this game, though I suppose in many cases the defender has to do quite a lot of defending and then go on to take an objective too, so that can be tricky. So the rules that come with this mission are quite simple and straightforward. There are immediate reserves for the attacker and delayed and scattered reserves for the defender. So there's reserves for both sides, neither army is starting with everything on the table. And the defender also has an ambush. There are pre-ranged in markers but no minefields, which is great for me because I hate minefields. Objectives can be taken at any time, but it can be a bit of a slow burner, especially for the defender. But with the reserve potentially coming in up to 16 inches in the corners, there's a real potential to get around the flanks of the well armoured front on all of my tanks. So there you go, folks. Contact.
Right, folks, we have deployed. I rolled off to be the attacker in this mission, but the defender still has to take an objective. That's key. So Laurence chose this side to defend. He placed an objective here and here, and then I placed one in that corner, and then under all those T34s in that corner. And then for deployment, Laurence has got his Su-85s in ambush. He's got his mortars and his artillery here, observer here, platoon of Hero T34s with the company HQ, and then in reserve it's another couple of platoons of the same and Su-76s. So me, I've kind of got two almost exactly the same size lumps. This is infantry, Panzer Grenadiers, sorry, anti-aircraft half-tracks, Panzer IV 70s, company command. This is exactly the same except they don't have the company command. I've got objectives to worry about, but I'm going to attack anyway. This one is probably the one that's going to be in most danger, but I'm not going to deboss my infantry right at the start because they'll be much more vulnerable to artillery. And I pre-ranged in, I don't have any artillery, so they've got the 122s ranged in here and the mortars ranged in there. No doubt they'll be lifting and clobbering wherever I go on my wanders for the first turn. So German turn one, there's not a hell of a lot happening. Folks, I didn't get my reserves in with one dice. So up here I'm moving up, try to keep out of line of sight initially. This line of trees is quite handy. I'm staying 2 inches back, but I'm within 4 inches of it, so that can't be used directly to ambush me, but there's still potential for ambushes to be placed near it. Over here, I've spread my Panzer Grenadiers out a bit, moved these guys up. I'm keeping my anti-aircraft half-tracks next to my tanks, by the way, because I reckon Shturmoviks are turning up. They'll probably slaughter these guys. Anyway, that left me the only shooting has been 3 shots downrange at the gauntly ground artillery, and I managed to get 1 hit, but that was saved. So that's it for me this turn, not too much happening. Both sides might not be doing too much until the reserves start to arrive. Soviet turn one, so no rolling for reserve this turn, and Laurence is keeping his ambush up his sleeve at the moment. So that really just left aircraft, and he got the Shturmoviks in. So in terms of shooting, starting with artillery, both ranged in over there and managed to hit 2 half-tracks, managed to hit 2 of the Panzer IV 70s with the big guns, but they all made a save, and the mortars managed to get a couple hits on half-tracks, but they made their saves as well. More importantly was over here. Planes came in, they had anti-aircraft coming from here and here. 2 hits from them, 7 from them, only 1 failed save, but it was a failed firepower. So they came in with 4 dice and got 4 hits. Oops. And they didn't make, none of them made their save. Anti-tank hit against side armour 4, he got 2 4s, he got 3 and he got 2. So 1 bale suffered, 1 bale and a dead. Now that means they're going to have some motivating to do next turn, or they could be running away. German turn 2, so motivation, that's the important thing, guys. He got back in, the company HQ is close enough to get him rerolls. He got back in, he didn't, but they then managed to pass the last stand. But I think it's actually a 4-up for these guys, so they're not terrible, they're not 5-ups, but he managed to pass. In terms of movement, a couple of half-tracks moved up. These guys who did the anti-aircraft fire last turn, even if they had targets, wouldn't be able to fire the weapons they used last turn. As it is, they're just waiting for more Shturmoviks arriving. Over here, these anti-aircraft half-tracks moved back so that they could get out of the template, the artillery template. Then that left, oh sorry, no reserves again, sorry. That left them firing down there, and they managed to get 2 hits, 1 kill. So, not too much happening yet, folks. I would have pushed on here, but I'm smashed to bits. So I really have to wait to get some reserves before they can do anything. Soviet turn 2, so there was no motivation checks required. Aircraft were rolled for, oh sorry, the ambush is not going to be deployed. Aircraft were rolled for, but they didn't turn up. No reserves yet, that'll be next turn. So I just left some shooting, and with the absence of the ambush, it was just artillery. And the 122s are making these guys pay a price. They managed to kill one. The only thing that will kill one is a roll of a 1 and a save, unfortunately. That one did it. And then, whoops, the mortars, they can just see from the corner of that wood along here. They ranged in and managed to get a couple of hits, but I managed to make my saves. Mortars are not going to be very effective against armoured things. The best they can do is to bail that. So, if the planes had turned up that turn, it could have been a lot nastier, but I still lost already 2 of my 6 Panzer IV 70s, and not making any progress. At least I will definitely get reserves next turn. German turn 3, so first of all in terms of motivations, he didn't get back in but they stayed. In terms of reserves, 3 dice got both reserves and they've arrived over here. So in terms of movement, these have all dashed up as far as they can. The infantry have moved up. Now, I was talking to Laurence saying why I've not moved them towards that already. There's not really much over there to defend that objective at all. They could have got in and done some assaulting, and they might well have, but they could easily have been smashed to bits by the ambush, or then when the reserves come in, they could come in right there. There's sort of like a 4 and 6 chance of them arriving around that area to shoot them up, so I'd rather go in when I've got some support. So that's what's happening now. They've moved up now, there's definitely some support. Then the aircraft half-tracks moved out of the template. They did some shooting down here, but didn't get enough hits to pin. There was just 2 saves required by 1 single mortar, and it made it. These guys done 4 shots, needing 5s here, got 1 hit and it was saved. And then they shooted and scooted out of the template, out from under the template. Over here, I'm staying put. Once again, I could be moving my infantry up, but these guys were coming around, machine gun them to bits. They could be coming up, and it's probably will now, to be honest, come up and shoot the hell out of them with their main guns. So, reserves will now be starting to get rolled for Laurence next turn, and there's I can see potential on both sides of the table for both of us just now. Soviet turn 3, so no motivations again. I don't seem to be putting them under any kind of pressure at all. No reserves, just 1 dice, so I had no ambush. I think Laurence is gambling on getting reserves and ambush at the same time. But the plane arrived again. So in terms of shooting, the artillery and the mortars ranged in on the 70s, the Panzer IV 70s, and these guys, sorry. And a few hits around here, but no failed saves, and the same over there. And then these guys have moved up. They're keeping themselves back. They could have got up to here and put some shots in on these guys, but they're keeping themselves back. They managed a couple of shots down here, but missed. More importantly, the airplane came in again. Anti-aircraft fire managed to get 1 hit from these guys and 8 hits from these guys. Only 1 failed save, but I failed with 5 power again, folks. It's only a 5 up, so it's not easy. So that gave them free rein, and he got 2 hits here, and basically 4 hits again. He failed his save twice, he passed his twice, so he's dead. So he's last standing, whatever happens. So the planes are definitely, even in face of all this anti-air, they're definitely getting the points back in this game. So everything that's on the table, that's coming on for me, is on the table. So I now have to make some decisions on where I'm going to defend and where I'm going to attack. German turn 4, so everything is on that's going to come on. In terms of motivation, sorry, he stayed. So I've moved him up now. He's got a chance of some shooting and he's probably going to run away. These guys dismounted into here, that command figure into there. The flying Hetzers infantry have dashed up, everything else has stayed put. So in terms of shooting, the King Tigers had line of sight on one of the guns, got 1 hit, but it was saved, and then these guys 4 shots, again just a 1 hit, and it saved. These managed to pin, at least to pin the mortars. 6 hits on 1 guy, failed 1 save, but I got a 2 from a firepower again. Over here, he fired, got 1 hit. Laurence mistaken targeted it onto a 76, and I got a 2 from a firepower. So every firepower has been a 2 so far. A lot of them have needed 5s, so it's not as if it's been a given that they should be successful. But it looks as though I've done nothing, but there's been a multitude of saves required every single turn and firepowers to kill. Just nothing is actually being killed, but not for want of shooting. So 2 dice for Laurence, so the reserves will come on and then the game will probably start to shape up. Soviet turn 4, so in this turn motivation, the mortars in the wood didn't unpin, the T34 got back in. And then in terms of the ambush, The shooting scooted back, but the Su-85s ambushed here. Reserves arrived and a 1 was rolled, so they came in over here. And the plane came in too. So in terms of other movement, the 85 stayed put because they had line of sight on him. The 76s moved up along with the company command to get shots on half-tracks. And the reserves just... Also, it was a 3 that was rolled, so they came in the back edge up to here. So in terms of shooting, the artillery's having time of its life. It's invincible. They won't die, and they're very good, unfortunately, at killing Panzer IV 70Vs. They managed to kill one of them. The other one died to a combination of fire from T34 85s and the Su 85s. The 76s managed to bail out one half-track. They filled the firepower. The plane could have wiped everything out in one go there. It managed to range in and it hit one of the King Tigers and 2 of the Flak half-tracks. They took 4 hits each from the Flak half-tracks, by the way. Failed one save, but I failed my firepower again. Then another hit from 3 half-tracks there. Failed a save, but I failed my firepower again. But it was a 6 and a 5, so it wasn't easy to do. Then he failed to save. Nightmare. But then Laurence failed his firepower. It's a 4-up firepower for the bombs, anti-tank 5. They too were also hit and failed their saves, but once again failed firepowers. He's not too bad at getting back in. They're not very good at getting back in. And then over here, these managed to get 2 hits, but he saved twice. So Panzer IV 70 got another chance to motivate to stay in the game. And then between them, the 76s managed to kill 1 empty half-track. So there's not a lot left on the German side. 1 platoon of Panzer IV 70Vs destroyed, the other one last standing, and the planes are currently unstoppable. German turn 5. So folks, in terms of motivation, he stayed. The half-track, infantry half-track, didn't get back in. One of those half-tracks did get back in, and thankfully, though he did it with a massive 2, he managed to get back in. So in terms of movement, the infantry ran up towards the Su-85s. Half-tracks moving up to support, and flame hitzers moving up to flame. These just stayed put on the hill. Anti-aircraft half-tracks are moved to here. And then in terms of shooting, the flamers managed to get a couple of bases. The infantry here managed to... No, they did some shoot... they managed to get a bail with a Faust. 2 shots from the Faust managed to get a bail on the Su-85s. And then these guys, 4 dice, 4 hits. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm actually starting to kill things. 1 failed firepower, but 3 dead. And then over here, in terms of shooting, he managed to get 2 hits, got a kill and a bail. So I am at least hitting things. And the flame hits, as I said, killed 2. Then in the assault, I went in with 6 bases against 4 dice of counter fire, and I lost two guys, which was pretty poor. But they went in, managed to kill a mortar with a single base infantry, and then managed to get a kill on 1 of the 85s. And then it went back and forward a little bit. The 85s stayed in the fight but not causing any hits, and it ended up with me failing firepowers to wipe them out basically, and then I had to break off. These guys are a 5-up motivation, so they were lucky to stay in for more than 1 round, which means that guy there in the middle, he's still alive. You know, he's fearless, so he can get back in and maybe stay in the game and keep dishing out the damage. But they could probably do with more reserves around that side now, because those infantry are in a good position to stay on that objective basically. So I've finally managed to kill some folks. Soviet turn 5. So in terms of motivation, there was a couple of ones to do. It's kind of out of sight now, but the Su-85 got back in and stayed. The T34 got back in but left. The mortars didn't unpin. The T34-85, he got back in. Then 3 dice for reserves, and they all arrived. The 76s rolled a 1, so they're coming over there, staying behind the hill just now to be used as a bombardment basically. And then you can see the T34s, they got a 4, they're coming on here to deal with hitzers. The other movement was just a blitz move to get him in a position where he could fire through the tree line, and he passed his blitz. So in terms of shooting, he fired at him and got 2 hits. Now I want to point out that every single shot that's been fired at these guys has hit them. They've had a total hammering. He passed one save, failed the other, firepower, passed, dead. And then these 2 T34s fired into the house, got 1 hit I think, but it was failed actually, and then it was failed firepower. Then over here, there was 1 successful hit by an 85 on the Hetzers. 1 hit from them, 1 hit for the 76s. The 76 saved, no, 2 hits from the 85s actually I think. 1 saved, 1 failed. Only 1 ended up bailed though. Then the Su-85 that's hiding in here fired up and killed 2 of the half-tracks, the Flak half-tracks. Oh, the planes didn't come in this turn. And then the 122s are still in the game. Managed to range in first time, got 2 hits, and once again failed 2 saves. They've failed 4 out of 5 saves. They're pinned now, they're reluctant, which is going to make it pretty difficult for them to keep going forward. But with 3 bases, they're not really going to be doing anything anyway. If I'd have passed those saves, I maybe could have kept pushing on. So I don't really see where the Germans are going to get a victory just now. I reckon it's down to the Soviets up against my reluctant infantry over here. They've got a couple of Panzer IVs, but they have to stay in the fight, and that ain't going to be easy. So over to me, where I've got a few motivations to do. German turn 6. So in terms of motivation, the surviving Flak half-track legged it. The half-track that was bailed out, ordinary one, got in. The infantry unpinned, which was a surprise. The flame Hetzer didn't get back in, he's reluctant. So in terms of movement over this side, a couple of half-tracks just got the hell out of Dodge into here. The company HQ's moved into the building, so that's empty, and they're full. The Flak half-tracks have dashed around to here, failed to follow me. The flame Hetzer's moved up to beside the 122s. My infantry moved up in a sort of crescent around here with eyes on the Su-85 and potentially 1 mortar team. And then I've split my King Tigers up. One to go shooting that way, and then only when I started shooting realised that I've got a build-out Hetzer in the way, so I couldn't even shoot. But he did a dead-eye shot needing a 6 because he's out of command, and he's managed to hit the the Su-85. And then the Hetzers killed 2 of the 122s, and then insulting, the infantry managed to get an assault in, didn't get any hits. They took 3 hits in counterfire, so they got quite hammered. 2 bases, 1 of them died, so it's now only they're last standing, so they're 4 up and they're gone. But the Soviets backed off. You can see that T34s had to move, and the infantry are now, the mortars are now in the open. But I've not really got much left alive. The King Tiger's coming over to try and do the job, and then meanwhile over here I've got to try and hold on to this objective with 1 platoon of reluctant infantry. Soviet turn 6. So in terms of motivation, it was kind of all happening over here. The mortars didn't unpin, the artillery didn't, and then it ran away. So the mortars have dug in. And then in terms of movement, the T34 85s, I had no plane this turn. T34 85 stayed put, the 76s moved up. 76s to do some machine gunning, 85s to kill Hetzers. And then over here, there was a general move around to shoot up these flame half-tracks. So, in terms of shooting then, the Su-76 is ranged in here but got no hits. These guys, all combined, managed to kill 1. Then the 76's machine gun got 4 hits on those guys. Both of them failed, so the guy in the wood is dead. The guy behind the bulletproof cover, the wreck tank, he survived because of a failed firepower. And then these guys managed to get a couple of hits on the Hetzers, one of which failed, and it's dead. So they'll be on a last stand. And the mortars just dug in. So that is it. something's got to give soon, I would expect, folks, but I've got a lot of important motivations to do. German turn 7, so starting with motivations, let me think. Infantry, first of all, ran away. They rolled a 1, they needed a 4, which is okay, but they ran away. And then Flame Hetzer, needing a 4 as well, it also ran away, which means that build one's actually dead. And in terms of movement, I'm just going to continue my very, very risky movement to come around both sides of the T34s. Flak half-tracks, one of them had to move from the open into cover, and they've not really got anything they can shoot at over there, so they fired over at the mortars, but didn't 6s because they were going to ground, didn't get any hits. He fired and missed, and then he fired and got a hit and killed one of the 85s. So there's not a lot left on either side, but also not anything which is going to absolutely win the game next turn or any such like. So I think there might be some side shots coming into some tigers, king tigers pretty soon. So over to Laurence for his turn 7. Soviet turn 7, not a lot in the way of motivations, but the mortars unpinned. Then the plane arrived, folks. So in terms of movement, 2 T34s moved up to get flank shots on this tiger, and 1 stayed put to defend the objective. And these guys stayed put, so they wiped out the remaining guys over here. The HQ, who didn't have line of sight, fired at my HQ but missed. The mortars and the 76s ranged in, third attempt here, and just got a few chances to kill some half-tracks. Laurence is hoping to break the formation here, because currently I've got 1 unit, which is the HQ, and 1 ordinary platoon left alive, and that's it. And 2 king tigers. Never mind what's left in the formation itself, that's all there is. So over here, the 85 missed, the 76 hit, but I saved against the 76. And the plane ranged in, got a hit, but I saved using bombs, but I managed to get a save. So that could have been crucial. He could have killed both of them in that turn, but even if he'd have got one of them, then I would have been last standing. As a 2-up, they're probably going to stay, but I could easily roll a 1. So I'm going to see if I can do anything maybe about him, because if I can, he's within 4 inches. He can't actually see him, so I'm going to have to move, neither can he. So I'll have to see what I can do. And then over here, I just have to keep my head down, hope for the best. German turn 7. So, was there any motivations there at all, folks? I don't think there was. So, over here, I could have moved my 2 king tigers off to deal with him, but I would at best have 2 shots on a 5. Potentially would have won the game if I got hits, but I just didn't feel it. So I kept him staying put. Over here, 2 infantry came out of the house to do an assault with their Panzer IVs. So they first of all managed to get 1 hit, and it was a bail on the company HQ. And then in shooting, he only got 1 hit, and he got a hit. So that was enough to get 2 firepowers. Killed the 76, but didn't kill the 85. He's bailed. So over here, they bailed out the company HQ. Then they went in to assault him, and because of where these were originally back here, there was no counter fire, and they killed it in assault. He passed his warrior save, he's now in the 85, and they counter-attacked. 1 tank was able to make contact, killed one of the infantry, who then broke off the survivors over here. And then he's consolidated, so Laurence is going to clobber that house. So, important motivations over here, and potentially planes coming in to bomb my T34s again. But we've both of us got almost nothing left. Soviet turn 7, so motivations was all about the T34s, and 85 got back in and then passed the last stand. No planes this turn. So in terms of shooting, start with artillery. Already ranged in, lots of chances to hit. and quite a few saves had to be made, and they were all passed or failed firepowers. There might have been a couple of failed firepowers in there, and then these guys got quite a few hits, 4 hits altogether, but they all passed. So they've miraculously held on. And then over here, the 85 got 2 hits, and we had to roll to see if it was turret or hull. And one was on the turret, one was on the hull. So the turret bounced and the hull rolled a 5. So that was exactly what was needed to bounce it. So that was lucky. So I'm going to have to see if I can finish these guys off. See, to get to him, to get within 6 inches of him, my tiger's got to do a cross check because of those guys here. That's, if you're thinking maybe that's why I never moved up last turn. And if I fail the cross check, I'm not shooting him. So I'm going to have to think what I'm going to do. Oh, what turn is this? I've not been moving the turn counter, so it's 8 or more. So in terms of motivation, my guy's all unpinned. In terms of movement, the HQ has moved into the half track. This surviving guy moved up to do a Faust attack, and then I'm boring. I just stayed put because if I don't kill him, he will kill me. So in terms of shooting, he got a hit, and that was the end of that T34. The guy here got a hit in a bale and then went in for the assault, but missed in the assault. They counter-attacked, one got in, killed him, and they just stayed put. If they move forward, it's going to stop the artillery. So I can now try and go in for the kill over here, but if a plane turns up and kills one of my guys, then it gets very interesting. Soviet turn, whatever it is. Motivation, T34 has stayed. And that was it. The plane was coming in. Now, Laurence has decided to ignore the King Tigers and go for the company command. The company command moved into this half track, so he came in and clobbered it with 37mm anti-tank fire, and I failed a mistaken target, which resulted in it being well and truly blown up, and the company commander alive, the second in command dead. And then these guys clobbered these half tracks, so we're going to ground, but it didn't save them. And 2 bases died in that failed passenger saves. And then the 76 mils ranged in on 3rd attempt, didn't do anything, and the mortars had a chance to kill him but failed the firepower again. I think he's survived a few failed firepowers. Right, I'm going to have to go and see if I can kill that T34. So this is the last turn, folks, as it turns out. My infantry are getting the hell out of dodge. He's mounted up in here. I mounted up 2 survivors plus a company HQ, and then whew, dashed and followed me over there. The platoon HQ couldn't get in. In fact, it would have to be the other way around. That's got to be an ordinary guy, because if I'm going to do a follow me, I need the platoon HQ in there. So ordinary guy from here, getting in bulletproof cover, staying by the objective. And then in here there are 2 bases of ordinary guys plus the company HQ, which would have meant them on a last stand actually, so that wasn't a very good idea. But I just had to get the hell out of dodge. And then these 2 tigers moved up. 2 shots, needing 5s. I passed a cross check to get this tiger into the wood. I couldn't go the other way and get within command distance of him. So 2 shots, needing 5s on the gone to ground, T34, got 1 hit, and up straight to firepower and dead. And as this guy started his turn within 4 inches of the objective, that's it. There's no teams to contest it. So at long last, folks, it's finally game over. So we'll go over for a recap. Before we go over to a recap with Laurence, here's my thoughts on the units that I use, because there's a lot of new units. So let's start with flame hitzers. What did I think of the flame hitzers? Well, you know, they did actually manage to get some kills. They got in about there. It was hard for Laurence to turn enough guns on everything, so they were able to infiltrate. Then they got done in. They killed 2 mortars and wiped out a 122mm battery, so that's not bad. But I really felt, I really missed a counter battery unit in that game. My Panzer IV 70s, they're safe from the front, but not necessarily from the top. And the mortars, the 122s, were quite effective against my Panzer IV 70s on my right flank. So, the Panzer IV 70s, well, they never really got started in this game, but I still think they're 2 useful units. You know, on the left-hand side of my flank, they got splattered by aircraft. That unit, every single shot at it, regardless of where it came from, hit. And it was mostly hits on the side, so they were always going to be struggling. The one that did survive got 2 shots, 2 hits, straight to firepower on 2 on 2 T34s. So, you know, I think they're still a good unit. If they can get a bit of protection from stuff hitting them on the top or on the sides, I still rate them. And let's talk about protection. The Flak half-tracks, the newest unit there, I suppose. Well, they were a bit unlucky in this game. They were up against Shturmoviks. They had 3 chances during the game to shoot them down, as in rolling for firepowers. They never got them. Shturmoviks, a 2-up save is quite hard to kill. So you have to say that the jury's out a little bit on them, because they were up against a tough opponent, but they're still good to have on the list because they're still quite so cheap. The Panzer Grenadiers. Well, you know, especially because they got half-tracks, I think they're quite useful even with them being reluctant. If you can carefully get them into position and then be aggressive with them at the right time, you know, the half-tracks will keep them safe from small arms fire and from most artillery fire, especially mortars, which is one of the things that kills infantry. Getting across open ground, it's just impossible in version 4. You just get ranged in on straight away. So get them over, keep them safe in the half-tracks as much as you can, and then assault at the right time. The half-tracks can give really good covering fire if there was any infantry to shoot. There wasn't in this game, but there quite often is. These guys will have a rate of fire of 2 on the move, but then 2 Fausts for those tanks. You put your company command in there for a reroll, even though they're reluctant. There's a very good chance that after your initial shoot assault, you can then maybe counter-attack. So I really like these reluctant trained guys. And then of course there's the King Tigers. So these guys had to ride their luck a little, and I think you probably will have to do that especially if you're playing the aggressive SS ones. You know, one survived the firepower to kill from a plane. That's always going to be a risk. One was outflanked, but then it's that situation, you know, that so much is, getting placed on this outflanking manoeuvre. Is it going to kill them? And no, it doesn't. And that can happen. And I obviously took a lot of chances with these guys. I split them up. I had to put a pincer around the wood. So I had to split them up to reduce the outflanking possibilities and to get shots down range where I needed them to be for the stuff that was hiding behind the wood. But King Tigers, yeah, definitely a unit of 2. You can't go too far wrong.
Well, Laurence, there you go. That was a bit of a bloodbath, really, that game. Lots of aggressive stuff on the table, so lots of stuff getting shot. And I think an important lesson for myself from that point of view is I have to be patient as my aggressive stuff is getting blown up. If you're used to playing Germans and then you're playing these new Bulge lists, you're going to have to accept the fact that you're going to lose a lot. That's why you've got a lot. So a little bit of a change in mindset. But how about yourself? How did you feel the game went for you?
Well, I think I probably put my objectives too far in the corner, because the table was quite open in the middle. There was no kind of like proper line breaking terrain like woods or anything like that. And I had the advantage where my reserves could potentially come in on the corners, and in essence I put 2 objectives in each corner, which meant both your half of your army were on both sides. So my idea when I was kind of creating the list would be that I would go artillery template heavy, and I think it was a good advert for them today. But I never got anywhere near your side of the table. It was, and I think it was quite pivotal after I placed those objectives that it was going to be limited as to what flanks I could go unless I went straight down the middle, which didn't have the terrain on my side. So I think for me personally, it was it was difficult, and it's good playing against kind of these King Tiger things and the Panzer IVs, because they have these great big guns, and they are quite. You do have that fear factor, and they're quite dominating, because there was literally nothing I could do to kill them. So it was a really good game, and I think it was my end result was that I would have to try and kill your commander to try and break your morale. That was the only thing I could really do to try and resolve it. And I think I nearly got him, and but I did think about maybe bringing on moving an Su-76 forward to the objective as well, to have two chances of surviving to have the game last one more turn. But I really kind of just threw my eggs into one basket and hoped that I would get them. I think the artillery was really good. It killed a lot of, it either bailed people that meant you doing a motivation test, or it did kill. So I think that's it wasn't kind of important, like as a plus from my side. But I think my objectives placing was a detriment to my kind of then my game thereafter.
Yeah, I suppose if you had an objective in the middle, I might have been tempted to put one of my objectives directly opposite it, which would have left an open flank. Now your reserves are scattered, but that would still give you a chance at least then of getting a good flank attack in against the force pushing up towards your middle objective.
Maybe just put one in the middle and then one on the flank, which meant that you would be then having to have some kind of force in the middle, which would have been able to have some of these kind of going up the flanks with that 16-inch move on the corner. So yeah, it was that's one for me to learn from, for sure, playing that mission.
Your aircraft, it was a bit of a game of two halves for them. At the start of the game, they were just brutal. They were killing everything, and my Flak half-tracks, they were a bit unlucky not to destroy you, but it was extremely difficult. They've got such a good save.
Got the Terminator armor of 2 up, so they are quite. I did increase the points, so I got the 10-point version, so I would have the heavy cannon, because I thought you would probably bring either a lot of kind of mediocre tanks like the Panzer IVs, but ones or even Panthers that do have a soft side. So going in with some anti-tank 8 was a good chance of getting some tanks. But yeah, they were good, brilliant at the start, and then pretty poor thereafter. So.
Now the King Tigers, I think in the end they destroyed 2 platoons of T34s and finished off an Su-85, but they kind of had to ride their luck to get there.
I think I bailed one of them once, but 2 up.
Yeah, that was the Shturmovik with the bombs. I thought it was a goner at that point. As I said, I had to play risky with the King Tigers, had to split them up, which made them even more vulnerable if any casualties were taken, but I needed to get a pincer around that wood. And then of course you got round the side with their 2 T34s, the 85 missed, and the 76 hit, the worst possible combination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely the way. It was an exciting moment for it to happen, but just it was like a scene from the Fury film, but it was good. I enjoyed it.
Well, hopefully you viewers all enjoyed it out there. You got to see some of the bulge lists up against something other than Americans, which is always good to see something a bit different. So thanks for watching as always, folks. As always as well, thanks to all the subscribers out there. and if you'd like to subscribe, please do so. It helps build the channel and bring this kind of content to more people who enjoy the game. You know, YouTube loves a well liked and well subscribed channel. So if you hit the bell button, folks, we'll definitely see you guys on the next one. Cheers all. Cheers, Laurence.
Don't rattle the dice.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
You'd be surprised how clearly that comes across on the videos.